We can't constantly stand in a space of anxiety and crisis every day. Well, I say we can't, but they do in Ukraine. And Russia, isolated, battered, and increasingly tyrannical, is resorting to grotesque new alliances to prop up its faltering empire. Chief among them is North Korea. In the past 48 hours, Kim Jong-un has confirmed that North Korean forces are fighting on Russian soil, a move that has not only militarized the Korean peninsula's insecurities, but has also internationalized Putin's tyranny in a way unimaginable even 2 years ago. According to the North Korean state media, Kim Jong-un describes his military participation in the so-called liberation of Russia's Kursk region as a sacred mission. Invoking Article 4 of the Russian-North Korean Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, Kim claimed that deploying his troops was essential to defending North Korea's own honor. Let's be clear, this is no defensive posture. This is a grotesque political theater where a Stalinist dictatorship props up a crumbling autocracy, and a grotesque solidarity of tyrants. Kim's announcement that Pyongyang will erect a memorial to these soldiers in the North Korean capital is emblematic, not of victory, but of the desperation of these two regimes facing existential collapse if isolated. The presence of thousands of North Korean troops and millions of shells, proven by multiple intelligence sources, is a violation not only of basic international norms, but of any lingering notion that Russia is conducting a defensive operation in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the rot within Russia's own system accelerates. Major General Yaroslav Moskalik, a senior intelligence official, was assassinated by what appears to be a Ukrainian-placed car bomb in central Moscow, and his death brings the number of Russian generals killed since 2022 to at least 21, a figure that would be almost farcical if it were not so tragic. It only needs another 5, and it equals the number of nails in the Pope's coffin. Further signs of systemic breakdown abound. A vast munitions depot in Vladimir Oblast, containing 300,000 tons of shells, was obliterated, likely by sabotage. Prominent generals like Ivan Popov are being jailed for corruption, in reality for dissenting against Putin's catastrophic military leadership. Russian partisans continue to sabotage railways and communication hubs deep within Russia's own borders. And all this paints a picture of a regime eating itself alive, even as it pretends to project strength. Compounding this fragile scene is the United States' internal ambivalence. Donald Trump's team, which presented Ukraine with the so-called final offer, a peace proposal that would have ceded Crimea to Russia, lifted sanctions without conditions, and barred Ukraine from NATO permanently. In essence, it was a document drafted to mirror the Kremlin's wildest dreams. Europe, to its credit, rebuffed this capitulation immediately, invoking Munich 1938 and the dangers of appeasing aggressors, and Zelensky, too, refused, demanding instead an unconditional ceasefire as the only basis for talks. His meeting with Trump at the Vatican, perhaps the last civilized backdrop one would find in this vulgar drama, has slightly shifted the former president's rhetoric, and Trump now openly questions whether Putin actually wants peace. It's a small shift, but significant. Putin's mask, even to his most useful Western tools, is beginning to slip. The deployment of North Korean troops in Russia is a watershed moment. First, it demonstrates the hollowing out of Russian military power. It confirms what observers have suspected and claimed: a once proud army now buttressed by pariah states. Second, it internationalizes the Ukraine conflict. We're no longer dealing merely with Russian aggression, but with an axis of rogue states actively collaborating on the battlefield. And third, that axis, North Korea, Russia, and Iran. And third, it invites devastating consequences for global security. North Korea is not aiding Russia for charity. They expect and may already have received a new missile technology, satellite systems, and nuclear capabilities in return. The West must understand to ignore this collusion is to invite greater wars tomorrow. Russia today is a fading empire clinging to power through brute force, foreign mercenaries, and terror. North Korea's involvement is not a sign of Russian strength, but of abject weakness, a desperate alliance between two regimes that know in their bones that time is running out. If the free world falters now, if it bends to calls for premature peace or realistic settlements, it will not only abandon Ukraine, it will betray every principle that has underpinned peace in Europe since 1945. Tyranny must be resisted. Desperation must not be mistaken for victory. And history, if we heed its lessons, must not be allowed to repeat itself, not this time.